Button. Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Oh no, it's not working again. Oh, you're killing me, Goose. We thought we had that fixed. Hold on. Boom. We will get it fixed again. Boom. Ryan, anything? Nope. Let's do it this way. Boom. Boom. I spent all day on the phone, or half the day on the phone, with Ecamm, and we thought we had this fixed. Obviously not. Ryan, can you talk to me?
Yes, I think I'm live now.
You are live now. Now we just got to fix Harbs. Because he's still muted. Wait a minute.
Harb's a good time to just let out all your frustrations. You can cuss me out all you want.
Nah, he's fixed. I fixed him.
I believe I'm fixed.
You are fixed.
See, and it would have been good to let out all my frustrations as I just learned about the epic Burns rant, which I am going to eagerly await to watch post-show here. But what a perfect first show for me as a member of
Climbing the Pocket, our newest member.
To have audio issues. So it just makes sense.
We thought we got that fixed, but we're back. I will be talking to
Absolutely.
them tomorrow. But
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Vikings Happy Hour this week. I am your host, Ryan, for the evening, subbing in for Matt Anderson. I don't know, he's being lazy today, I think, or maybe he actually has something to do. But so as Andrew, as you mentioned, is your first show as a member of the Climb in the Pocket team. I know you've guested on our shows before, so welcome to the team here, and excited to have you. Why don't you tell the fans here a little bit about kind of who you are and what you're going to bring to the team here?
Ryan, I'll be honest with you. I unplugged something at that last bit. What was your question?
I had just said, why don't you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and what you'll bring to the Climb in the Pocket team?
I am going to bring hijinks, audio issues, and most importantly, I think an outside perspective on the Vikings. That's something that Fornes told you guys when I joined, that I might be the only person who's not a Vikings fan at heart. I love the skull. I love the chant, as I've done every time I have an audio issue. That's my go-to. I think this is a very fun team because it's an in-between team. I think the NFC North is getting very interesting, especially with the Aaron Rodgers saga. This Vikings can control their destiny this season, and what a perfect time to talk about controlling your destiny by going over a schedule. So I'm very excited to dive into the Vikings. This is my first little bit into the team as a whole, and I've done my research, and I'm very prepared to do my best for everybody here at Climb in the Pocket.
Well, like I said, we're excited to have you on board here. It's going to be a good partnership here, as I think talking to you offline and what you've contributed on our shows, I think you'll bring a good perspective and another good eye for talent, especially in that draft season. So as tradition, typically we start the show off by talking about what we're drinking. Dave, our extraordinary producer here, what are we drinking tonight?
Titan Ale, India Pale Ale. It's local, brewed here in Colorado. It's one of my staples, and it is the last 6-pack I have in stock. I'm going to have to get some more.
There you go.
But I got plenty for tonight.
Perfect.
I had prepared, and I thought I had more juice for it. I was going to have a Malibu and pineapple, which is a staple of my Mobile trips whenever I go down to the Senior Bowl. And I did not have any pineapple, but I have tons of Malibu, which I cannot drink straight. So I have tea in a very expensive Universal cup that my wife probably paid $50 for last month when she went to Florida.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm drinking, Modelo. I had to rep the home country here. I'm not actually from Mexico, but my mom is. So, you got to enjoy a cerveza every now and then. Yeah, well, to get the show started, obviously we're going to talk plenty tonight about the schedule here. But Dave, I think you wanted to bring something up that, for the viewers and listeners and pay some condolences here.
Hey, I wanted to raise my glass, tip my hat to one of the all-time greats in Vikings history, Mr. Jerry Burns. Jerry Burns was an assistant to Bud Grant. He actually is the originator of what then became the West Coast offense. He took over as head coach in 1986. Bud Grant was pissed he didn't take over right immediately after Bud retired, but Les Steckel did. We'll forget the Les Steckel year. Burnsy is a fiery, passionate man that coached the Vikings. I remember I got stationed in North Dakota back in 87, year after he took over, and it was always fun to watch his offenses, and the whole team as a whole. And he won coach for 6 years, went to the playoffs 3 times, and went to the NFC Championship once. If it wasn't for a dropped pass, he would have taken us to the Super Bowl. It's just one of those many Vikings heartaches. But for you, Burnsy, and your classic rants, I'm glad you have made it to heaven, and may you rest in peace.
Yeah, cheers. I didn't have much of an opportunity to watch him coach. I'm a little too young for his era. Denny Green was really the coach when I started becoming a fan. But everything I hear about the man and everything that when you watch back and look at those 80s Vikings, he really you can tell that he really was running a good ship here. And yeah, like I said, that or like you said, that drop pass was a heartbreak. Again, watching back that game, I thought we had that one in the bag, and who knows, maybe that would have been our only Super Bowl. So, who could have been, woulda, shoulda, coulda. But yes, so cheers to Jerry Burns here, Vikings legend, and let's get on with the rest of the show here. So Vikings schedule just dropped here. Pretty exciting news for all Vikings fans. There it is. So we have the unfortunate, I guess, privilege to embrace the more away games than home games as this first year in the 17-game schedule era begins. Harbs, obviously we'll maybe dive a little deeper into each of these games here, but out of everything that popped up on there, what really stuck out to you as a game that you had circled on that calendar that you're excited about?
I wouldn't even say it's necessarily one game, because it adding an extra game kind of gives you a little bit more leeway with this whole thing. It's not so much the college football route where one loss or two in certain areas is really going to derail you. But something I mentioned to Dave off air before you jumped on, Ryan, is ending with 5 division games in your last 8 games. I mean, that means the second half of the season, you have the whole first half to really work out the kinks on this offense and this defense and everything, and get everything rip-roaring and going. And I think a big part of that's going to be Christian Darrisaw. I think the way he plays is the way this offense is probably going to roll for the most part. I mean, you get to look at who he's going to get tested by with Myles Garrett, DeMarcus Lawrence, everybody on that Ravens defense, Joey Bosa. And then that's when you start that really tough tear to end the season. So I think it's going to be the first half's pretty soft on the eyes, which is what you want before you get into the hard part. And that week 7 bye is perfect too. I think the later the bye you can get, especially with the 17-game season, the better it's going to be.
Dave, anything that stood out to you that you're excited about or nervous about?
Well, it was, I'll bring the schedule back up. I thought the start is the softer start. And I do think that will help as the team gels and finds their identity. I normally don't like an early bye, and that week 7 bye sort of scares me. But this schedule that I have up does not have the days and the times on it. There is, later in the season, we go from the Steelers on Thursday night to the Bears the following Monday. So that is like a mini bye between week 14 and 15. I do think that helps. So we'll see. I think coming out of the bye with the Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers, Packers, Niners, that's going to be the test right there. Yep. If they make it through there and the Vikings are above 500, I think this team is rocking. And I hope they're way above 500 by that time.
Yeah, we can all hope. I agree. Obviously, big things that stood out to me. I care about matchups. I care about watching players that I enjoy around the league. Obviously, we all know I'm a big Oklahoma fan. So we have Browns at home week 4. Harbs, I was trying to set you up for this. I know you're kind of a Brownie, big Browns fan. So that's a game I'm excited about. I get to watch my boy Baker Mayfield. Hopefully not tear us up too bad, but he probably will. That's the only game I usually won't cheer for him. And even then, I still want him to have a good game, but I still just want us to win. And Kyler Murray, Cardinals, that second game.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look at that first 6 weeks, right, before the bye. I don't think, yes, it is an easier part of the schedule. It's still tough. You look at the Lions, sure, Panthers, yeah, probably. But Bengals, depending if Joe Burrow's up and healthy, that's going to be a tougher game. You have up and coming Cardinals that literally, got much better, I feel like, this offseason. Seahawks are always a tough one. Browns are up and coming. Like, they made the playoffs last year. They have a legitimate top 5 roster in the league right now. And then, like I said, Lions and Panthers probably are, maybe a little easier, but it's a tough schedule. I don't think we're going to have any cakewalks this year. I think a lot of these games are going to be hotly contested and close games, which is what you really want as a fan. Obviously it's nice to blow out teams, but and that doesn't get the adrenaline going. So,
speak for yourself. I love blowouts.
I was going to say, I will speak from experience as you mentioned already. I'm a Browns fan. Having my first playoff game be the blowout that was with Pittsburgh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So blowouts are fun. You just got to get them
blow
well
out every division opponent. If you can blow them out, that just leaves a good taste in your mouth. All the other games, let's have at least some sort of competition. Make me sweat a little. I still want to win every one of them, but yeah, I like good quality, high quality games.
Well,
100%.
we all do. And my question to you guys is, how many wins or losses do you see? There was the famous PA quote, "I don't see a single loss in this schedule," right? Which is a joke because we all know that winning that many games in a row is virtually impossible. It's only been done twice. What are you guys thinking by looking at this schedule?
And I think it's tough. I think like I said, I mentioned before, it's a tough schedule. I can see worst case scenario, 5-win team, best case scenario, maybe 11, maybe. And again, I'm trying to be as realistic as possible here. Again, it just kind of depends on how these other teams improve. We're going to improve a lot from last year. I know everyone's like, oh, well, we weren't that good and all these teams are getting better. We got a lot better this year with just from the team, the team that we had in place prior to the draft and prior to free agency. We're getting Daniel Hunter back. We're getting a healthy Eric Kendricks back, a healthy Anthony Barr back. That's a lot of talent just in those guys alone. That's going to really help beef up that defense. Now, and then we have Patrick Peterson. We have Cam Dantzler in his second year. Xavier Woods hopefully is a pretty good addition for that safety group. We have more talent, obviously with opposite Daniel Hunter. I think we have more talent outside of Daniel Hunter in this D-end group that we did prior. We have an actual functioning, even though he's not necessarily a 3-tech by trade, we have a higher quality Dalvin Tomlinson than whatever we were throwing out there last year at D-tackle. And again, that's just defense. Our offensive line improved a lot. So I think again, let's hope they improved a lot, right? There's going to be a lot of new faces, but I can't imagine getting.
Hopefully, it's not Hill and Dozier starting.
Well, I can't imagine us getting worse than Dozier and Samia, at least at very minimum. By the way, I love that article that was shared out there today about Samia is actually a genius, trying to get Kirk all revved up and ready to go. That was pretty funny. But anyway, so taking a look at the schedule, it's a tough one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think we're in realistically 9 wins is probably what I'll end up being at. But it really depends on, like I said, that Bengals game, I see us winning. But if Joe Burrow does play, which again he's ahead of schedule, if he plays, I think it's a lot closer of a game than people think. So they improved a lot this year. I still think our offense can carve up that defense quite a bit. I don't know. I'd say nine wins is my early optimistic-ish prediction. I'm probably more realistically going to be at like 8 or 7.
Wow. Harbs?
Yeah, my best case I wrote down beforehand was 8 and 9. And again, I'm a little bit more pessimistic, and it might be the Browns fan in me. But still, at the same time, the beginning, like I talked about, there was at one point where I was counting through that I was getting towards the end of the schedule, and I was like, I only have 4 wins. I was like, I got to look back and kind of
you got to
think
be
more about
kidding
this.
me.
I went back. I think a worst case, depending on a couple different scenarios. Yes, you get Patrick Peterson. He's an older corner. Again, I don't know how much he's gonna. I think he's gonna be more of a big impact on Dantzler than he is maybe on the team as a whole on the field. Because I think Dantzler's an absolute hit for you guys at corner. I think he's going to be something that, as he develops, is going to be really good. But I think a worst case, you're looking at 6. But like you talked about, Ryan, I think 8 to 9's probably the more realistic middle of the park, as Dave's already shaking his head at me. It's going to really be that first half is going to make or break this whole season, I think. And I think the division games to end the year is also going to be really interesting. Are you going to be able to split Chicago at the end of the season? Is Chicago still going to have Andy Dalton? Or are they going to have Justin Fields? Do the Lions, are they just folded at that point by week 13? Or does Dan Campbell still have them fighting and chewing on everything that they can get in their mouth off the field on kneecap-wise? And then same with Pittsburgh. Are you going to get a Ben Roethlisberger that already has a noodle arm, but it's going to be even worse at that point? Or have they established the run with Najee Harris, which they needed to do in the past? And then same with the Packers games. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers isn't there and you're going with Blake Bortles and Jordan Love, that's 2 more wins potentially. So that's really going to be a key factor here. And ultimately, I think Rodgers will still be there. But again, those are 2 giant question marks like this. And I wrote about it in my article this week. I said, this division can potentially be very open. It's like, and this isn't a disrespect to the NFC North. It reminds me of the NFC East last year in the preseason where you had a lot of good rosters and it's all just going to go by quarterback play. If Kirk Cousins comes out and he can be what he was 2 years ago, and he gets Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook, you get Irv Smith involved a little bit more. The offense can carry this defense, and the defense, like we talked about, made improvements. So it can be a very good season to a very bad season very quickly, and there's a lot of X factors that aren't necessarily things that the Vikings can control. That's the only hiccup I think that you guys may have.
What
Well,
are your thoughts, Dave?
The out of control ones, I understand. I mean, it could be like 2016 when all the offensive linemen got hurt and all the replacements got hurt, and then the third string got hurt. Last year when all the corners got hurt and they had to go out to 7-Eleven, find some. I understand the unexpected calamities that happen. But I don't anticipate with the rosters that we have today of them dropping anywhere less or below 10 wins. I just don't see that. And I see it closer to 12 or better. I think we're going to have a top 10 defense, and I think we're going to have a top 10 offense. We have repaired the offensive line. Theoretically, I strongly believe that we're going to see Darisaw at left tackle and Wyatt Davis probably at right guard. I think we're probably going to move Ezra over to left guard. I think the defense is better across the board. You got Peterson, you got Alexander at nickel, you got Gladney if he ever gets out of his trouble. You have Dantzler, right? And you have a wild card in Hughes if he plays healthy, right? And the corners. I don't have any issue with that. Ryan is correct. We have Kendricks and Barr back. Both of those guys are very, very, very good linebackers, especially Kendricks. Barr screws up what the offense does when those guys come up and threaten blitz, whether they bring it or not. They have to do an adjustment on that line. And most people that cover blitzes will just use a back. That's the easiest way. Well, they know Anthony Barr can defeat the back. So they've got to switch and change blocking schemes to cover the blitz if they're going to. And most teams don't do well when they do it. That's why the Vikings defenses with Barr there have been so good. And I think Woods back in the secondary next to Harrison Smith will be fine. I think that defense will jump back into the normal one, top 10-ish that we're used to. Offense, all the weapons are back. The only one missing is Rudolph. And Rudolph wasn't much of one except for in the red zone anyways. I think Irv can step that up. So they're all back. Now, do I wish we had a wide receiver 3 that was talented and catch the ball more than 7 yards down the field? Absolutely. And maybe the rookie can step up. We'll find out. But it's irrelevant. We still got at least 3 weapons on the offensive side. I think Kirk will get more time. Now, the question with Kirk is, how is he going to feel with a possible replacement behind him? And really, I don't care just as long as he goes out and performs. So I don't see us losing more than 7 games. I don't. And I think it's going to be less than that. Take Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is, say, here in Denver, right, you take him out, and I'll put the team against Bortles or Love any day of the week. We know Mike Zimmer gives, quote, rookie quarterbacks, and granted, Love was drafted last year, but he hasn't played, gives rookie quarterbacks absolute fits. Same goes with Cincinnati. The kid, yes, is a good quarterback, but has he gone against the magic and voodoo that Mike Zimmer does and generates on the defense? I doubt that. And then the question is, how many other? Yes, I agree with you, Harbs. Quarterback matchups are a big deal. The Steelers can be tough, or they could be done by then, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's all.
And another thing with that Steelers game too, like I mentioned to you too beforehand, they're going to be looking ahead at that point because on paper, their last 5 games are Minnesota, and then they go into the ringer of Tennessee, Cleveland, Kansas City, and Baltimore. So they could very well be looking ahead at that point too, to where the Vikings are able to sneak out a win or just put on pure domination. It's one of those things where Pittsburgh at that point, like we said, they're either going to be in it or they're going to be out of it, and there's going to be no in between. So it's going to be interesting.
I think
absolutely.
Who's that dude said 13-4? I think that's the upper end, but that is possible. And you want the Vikings too to get playoff position.
Right, absolutely. And obviously my 9 wins that I had mentioned, that's obviously factoring in that Rodgers is here, right? I mean, it's a 2-win easy swing. If, that puts us at 11 for me if Rodgers gets traded elsewhere. I just don't actually see it happening. If it does, though, or if he just not even traded, if he just decides not to play, which again has been rumored that he's willing to retire or sit out or whatever it is. I'm obviously I would switch that prediction. I 9-10 wins at that point, but so why don't we do this? Obviously we have a 17-game schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Dave, you're going to probably be on the thumbs up here a little bit more than maybe Harbs or I might be. But why don't we go game by game? We'll make a case. We'll make a case for who's going to win that game. Maybe give a little bit of just a quick, tiny information about each of these teams. Harbs, we may need you to lead that a little bit. I know quite a bit too, but I think you're probably a little bit more well-versed in some of these other teams than I am. Why don't we go game by game, give a little tidbit about that team, why they might give us some fits, and then our prediction for that game. So Bengals, right? Joe Burrow, number 1 pick last year. They drafted Jamar Chase. They got T. Higgins, who played great as a rookie last year. Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, hell of a running back. Defense is suspect. Offensive line got better. Still, I think that you can create some havoc there. Harbs, what else about the Bengals should scare us a little bit?
I'll be honest with you. If I'm a Vikings fan and looking at it as an analyst standpoint for the Vikings, I would like to think this is a W in marker. I really think, and I'm a big fight fan, I'm a big boxing fan, I'm a MMA fan, and there's ring rust and there's cage rust. And I think Burrow, he's not going to play in the preseason. This is going to be the first time he's getting hit. And I think Burrow is one of the toughest guys out there ever since I saw him get obliterated by UCF in that bowl game, which then triggered in his head the best football to ever happen with his arm. I think Joe Mixon is very up and down. I know that just from before I dove into a quote real football. I was really on the fantasy side of things, and he's very, very hit and miss. And then offensive line is still suspect because they went with Jamar Chase at 5. And then as Tyler Forness mentioned in the group chat earlier today, Cam Dantzler's had Jamar Chase's number. I looked back at it because I did not realize how much Dantzler covered him. In the 2 games they played each other in college, Jamar Chase only had 7 catches, 68 yards, and 1 touchdown. And for an Oblitnikoff winner with 1,900 yards, that's pretty good. So I feel Dantzler's able to handle Chase. I think Patrick Peterson's more than capable of handling Higgins or Tyler Boyd. They still have Drew Sample at tight end, and that's So I think this would be a very easy W for Minnesota. I don't have any really concerns from the Vikings standpoint with this game.
This is a noon game on Sunday, and I agree with Harbs. And I think it's a spot where that defensive rotations opposite Hunter will start to see it and see how well it does.
Yeah, I think this is a game where I think we're going to let our defensive line really set the tone, not just for this game, but hopefully for the season. It's one of the easier matchups they're going to get. You have Riley Reif going up against, Hunter. You're going to have, whoever we have at, the right, or I'm sorry, the defensive end going up against Jonah Williams. And that interior of that line is suspect at best. So Harbs, I'm going to defend Joe Mixon a little bit. One, Oklahoma guy, but 2, he's never had a line. I mean, he's putting up I think he led the AFC in rushing in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember. Behind by far the worst offensive line in the league. And they had to start throwing Trey Wayne's covering JJ. Absolutely. And he had to start, they had to start throwing the ball by halftime every game because they were down by so much. Right. And he still put up those kind of yards. So I think that he's going to give us, I think that offense will give us a little bit of run for our money a little bit if their offensive line can hold up at least a little bit. But where I see us taking over that game is on our offensive side, their defensive side, as who's that dude said, Trey Wayne's covering JJ. That's going to be an obliteration. I think Thielen, coming into the fold here, going up against their number 2, I assume. And again, I'm not even sure who that is.
I believe it's Hilton from Pittsburgh.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's not bad,
okay.
But still,
yeah.
I'd give the
right. Thielen mastered. He's just a really good route runner. So it doesn't matter who you are. It's going to be a tough matchup regardless of whoever Thielen's going against. And then we get to see what Irv's doing. And of course we are a running team and Dalvin Cook, and their linebackers have always been and still continue to be suspect. And we have Dalvin Cook being able to, hopefully go through and make some big plays. So I think we all agree that's going to be a W on the board there. So Arizona Cardinals. So Kyler Murray.
Second road game. This is a 3:05 game. In the afternoon.
3:05 road game. Okay. So again, another road game on the road again, going to the, West Coast this time.
Quasi.
We got DeAndre Hopkins, we got Kyler Murray. They added, who did they add at receiver opposite Hopkins?
They drafted Rondale Moore.
Okay. And they got Christian Kirk. Yeah. And they added AJ Green again. Who knows what he's got left? Right. But they got AJ Green. Upgraded offensive line again. They drafted another linebacker in the first round, which I found interesting. So we'll see how that works out for them. Cornerbacks.
And Marcus Gilbert. Yeah, Marcus Gilbert retired too. So there's no real great tackle either there for
DJ Humphries.
Really
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, another team that's up and coming. The one thing that I have super big reservations on is I know it's Kyler Murray and I know I'm a fan, whatever, but running quarterbacks always give us a fit. Always have, always, I feel like always will. Russ Wilson always gives us a fit. We've had in the past trouble with pretty much anyone who can scramble and throw on the run. Rodgers especially, right? So what do you guys see in this game? Obviously, Dave, I know you're probably chalking this one up to a win. What do we see in this game that is going to give us some troubles?
I would probably just say you talked about the scrambling aspect for Kyler Murray. I mean, that's any X factor with any defense that goes up against him, whether or not you're going to be able to spy and contain him. But I would say if there were some linebackers that I would think would be able to be up for the task, especially early on in the season, I would take Kendricks and I would take Barr. So it's going to be interesting to see. Plus, I think the middle of that defensive line, if you're able to get pressure up the middle with Tomlinson and everybody else there and Daniel Hunter being there full force, like we talked about, you said Humphreys was there too. I'm a Florida fan, and I don't even want Humphreys protecting anybody I would have a quarterback. So that being said, I think the defense would be able to do just fine. And you talked about too, and I cut you off, I apologize. The corners for Arizona are just abysmal. So, I mean, even if you get into a shootout here, I think you're going to be fine. It's just going to be whether or not Cliff Kingsbury is able to stay being creative. And if Kyler Murray just goes full Madden on everybody, it's going to be the real decision or difference maker, excuse me.
And
Dave?
I don't think that will happen. I think Zimmer will shut that down, and it's not going to happen. So I took that up as a W. Vikings start 2-0.
I'm gonna go and disagree. I'm gonna track this up as an L for us. Again, I always anytime we face a running quarterback, I just struggle. I struggle thinking Zimmer's going to be able to stop it, and maybe it's just again the main scrambling quarterback we played is Russ Wilson, but again, he's never really had a good team around him, and he continues to beat us every single time we play him.
But most of those are close. There's never been
you're right.
games.
And I'm not saying this won't be a close game, but I'm saying I just think that it might be a little bit more of a shootout, and I think the Cardinals eke this one out with Kyler's ability to rush and move the ball.
I like Mateo's post. This is a Patrick Peterson revenge game.
I would love it. I would love it. Again, obviously, and everyone listening, obviously, I'm cheering for us to win. I don't ever want us to lose a game.
He's not.
More or less
he wants
just being
Kyler Murray,
realistic.
the Oklahoma quarterback, to get a win. Don't let him lie to you, everybody.
And I agree with Jeffrey that said Pearson and Tomlinson should be run stuffers. Up the middle, they will be. And it's a matter of the defensive end. What I think they're going to do is take two blockers apiece. Defensive ends will occupy some, and that leaves the linebackers open to fill the holes, which I think is going to be a huge difference this year.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. It's going to definitely help us out.
Let's go to this third one, where Seattle comes to Minnesota. First time since the playoff game back in the frozen tundra at TCF Stadium, I believe.
Yeah, we've been there. I mean, pretty much every single time we've played them. So it's been bad. So we got Russ Wilson again, going back to that scrambling quarterback situation. We got Burner, DK Metcalf. We got route magician Tyler Lockett, who makes at least 5 incredible catches every year. Defense again, rebuilding. Right, they lost their top corner. So they're having to rebuild there. They obviously still have Bobby Wagner as kind of the stalwart there in the middle of that defense. And defense ends. I think they end up losing 2 of them. They lost Dunlap for sure.
No, they re-signed Dunlap.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they brought him back.
Did they lose somebody? I could have swore they lost somebody.
I can't think.
I can't remember, I guess,
Griffin
for
was
sure.
a big loss, I know, and you talked about that at corner. So,
and Jaron Reed, did they re-sign him? Can't remember.
I don't recall.
Either way,
I
think they might have lost somebody on that defensive line, but I could be wrong. Either way, this game's close every time. Every single time we play. I'm going to chalk this one up as a W, though. Going against my scrambling quarterback, theory, I think the difference is going to be we play them close every single time, and all we know is losing to the Seahawks because ever since that frozen tundra game, we have lost to them. But they're always close games, and we're at TCF Bank, and we don't have Blair Walsh on our team, so I think this is going to be one where we can actually eke this one out and move to 2-1 on my schedule here.
Yeah, I was looking at, for all these games, I was looking at the historical data, and not a lot of them were like, wow, this is bad. But Seattle's history was, wow, this is bad. Haven't had a win since 2009, 7 in a row Minnesota's lost. That being said, I know Russell Wilson from one of my connected friends had a wish list for offensive line in this offseason. He got none of them. So Russell Wilson does not have the protection he wants. He's still, I think, going to be deep down upset because Pete Carroll's going to walk out like he's Squidward for every press conference and every game, and it's not going to be much different. I think Seattle's going to have a lot of growing pains this year. I think that's going to be more of a quarterback disaster than what Green Bay may deal with because I think Rodgers is a little bit mentally tougher there. I know that's not anything Vikings fans want to hear, but I think Seattle's going to have a very tough, long season, and I think this is a win, 100% with Ryan. I think that history's not on your side, but I think that the 2021 rosters for these two teams makes you be on the right side of history for this one.
Well, I think being back in the stadium, the fans doing the skull chant, I think that's going in the first game, the home opener. I think that's going to pump everybody up. And you talk about those losses, and I said they were close. Last year, 1 point. Year before that, 1 touchdown. Year before that, 2 touchdowns. Year before that, 1 point. And then 2015, Vikings were blown out. And but
yeah, I noticed that too. 3 of the last 4 were 1-score games. So it's not like historically they're doing that much to you because anything past 4 games, different teams, different coaching staffs. So no, I mean, you guys play them close, and I think a healthy defense definitely tips the scales.
It does. Ryan, talk to us about the next one.
All right, so we got the Browns at home. Man, this is gonna be a tough game. They have a great roster, right? From Myles Garrett to Denzel Ward, they added a lot of key pieces on that defense. Jadeveon Clowney. They did lose Sheldon Richardson, which should help us out a little bit, especially since our main area of weakness is the interior of that line. But I mean, yeah, they just John Johnson. So they added a lot on that defense. They're getting Odell Beckham back again. I know. Maybe they have some chemistry issues or whatnot, but again, he does make the defense account for him, right? Jarvis Landry, number 1 offensive line from last year. Great running backs and a quarterback that's not all that dissimilar from Kirk Cousins. More probably of a game manager-ish kind of guy that can put his team on the back as needed, but is really going to let the run game and the play action and those type of throws really dictate the pace of the game. So really, it's going to be a very similar play styles on both sides of the ball. Stefanski knows what we're doing. He's been with us for a long time. Obviously, we'll have to throw some new wrinkles in specifically in that game to hopefully confuse him a bit. But it's going to be a tough game. I do have this one as a loss on our schedule here. I just think that Myles Garrett and Clowney is going to be a little bit too much for our offensive line to handle. And I don't think we're going to get enough working there on their offensive line, given how strong it was last year. And I think it's going to be a close game. I think that it's probably going to be a 1-score game. But yeah, I have this one as a loss for us.
Harbs?
I will not go off on how excited I am about this game on paper. And you talked about it a lot. Losing Sheldon Richardson. We also lost in the middle Larry Ogunjobi, who went to Cincinnati, which is just painful. He was one of Greg Williams' love childs from Charlotte in one of their draft classes. I think the matchup of the minds between – I wrote down there's 2 sets of matchups I'm curious about. The matchup of the minds of Stefanski coming home, against Mike Zimmer. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game because these two are just really going to be – it's going to be like two old training partners, to bring back the fight reference. They're fighting each other, and it makes for a boring fight, but it also – you got to have a winner and a loser. But I think the main matchup I want to see is Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen going up against Denzel Ward and their first-round pick, Greg Newsome. I think that's the one that can tip the scales to where if you got a rookie corners have a tough learning curve at times. You saw it last year with Jeffrey Okudah, who was a top 5 pick, top 10 pick at least, if I'm not getting that right. And I think the biggest thing the Vikings have to worry about, and this is what we're talking about here, is that 27th ranked run defense going against Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And that's something where I could see Chubb and Hunt just each having 100 yards this game, and it being a time of possession difference for who gets a win and who gets a loss. And that's for either side. Cleveland's got to force turnovers if they want to win it, and that's something that I don't think the Vikings do too often. So, and again, that's part of how they're coached up with Zimmer. So it'll be a very old school game, I think, that's not going to be very fun on the ESPN highlight reel, but it's going to make for a very long game if you're a fan of both of these teams. Like, come on, somebody just do something to break away. I, too, think it's a close game. But I think it could go either way. I do have it as a loss, though, just because I think the Chubb and Hunt difference.
Okay. This is a noon game, which is what the Vikings love. The previous one, Seattle, I failed to mention, is 3:25 in the afternoon. Should be the Fox nationwide in the afternoon. This one's going to be a tough one. I'm looking forward to this game as well. Harbs, it's going to be fun. Tons of storylines. I could see it either way, but I could also see the Vikings starting out 4-0.
No, 100%. And if they can get Justin Jefferson, and I think if they can, the Vikings passing game, if it gets going with Jefferson and Thielen against the two younger corners, Ward, I'm still not 100% sold on. A lot of people like him. I'm still very hit and miss on him, especially he has an injury history. So if he's not playing, it's Newsome all by himself.
That you guys really did sign Troy Hill too. Troy Hill's a pretty good player, I think, at corner. I really wanted us to sign him. So
yeah, and there's a couple other veterans there that sure up the depth. But I mean, going back to the Chiefs, this is what I tweeted earlier today. The Browns drafted to compete with what the AFC is, and that's passing. And that's what I think is what Kirk Cousins, Jefferson, and Thielen, and even Cook out of the backfield can create issues with. So if that can definitely open things wide open for this game. So I could go from being very close to not very quickly. So
absolutely,
we'll find out.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a close game, and I'm excited for it. This is my number one circled game on the schedule. My buddy might fly up for it. I might be taking my son to it. It's going to be a good one. So
Forness is trying to get me to come to it, so I get the hype behind it.
There you go. There you go. All right, so I know we're kind of coming up on time-ish here, but obviously there's going to be a couple games that we can kind of pass over a little bit. But Lions, again, I think that's a relatively easy win. I can't see them improving with that offense. I just don't think it's going to be
third
enough.
Home game in a row.
Perfect. Yeah, so I just can't see us losing that game. Jared Goff is not really that great, and they have no offense really to speak of. So
I will throw in Jared Goff in his career against the Vikings has 70% completion percentage and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So that's the one thing that could be interesting. The only problem is it's now the Lions' offense. It's not Sean McVay's offense. So that's
exactly.
Just the
without Sean McVay, I'm not too worried about it. And Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, schemes that are putting Cooper Kupp on Anthony Barr 30 yards down the field. I mean, yeah, they the Rams worked us that game, and Goff was very impressive throwing to wide open players. So I'm not too worried about him.
If you're excited to see Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma quarterbacks, I think this will be the one year you get to see Jared Goff, and then next for the couple years you'll get to see Spencer Rattler in Detroit because the team's not very good, and I really easily see them having the first pick.
Yeah, I
then
agree.
come the Panthers. And do
Go
you
ahead,
see
Harbs.
any improvement there from them on the road?
It really, by week 6, you're going to know what they have in Darnold, and that's really, I think, going to either make this team maintain what they think is momentum versus just breaking and falling off. You saw the very interesting interview today with Teddy Bridgewater ripping Joe Brady's 2-minute offense, where the reason they got rid of Bridgewater was these close one-possession games that he said they couldn't win at the end. And Matt Rule said, you've got to have a guy that can do that. Well, it sounds like you've also got to have an offensive coordinator and a coaching staff that works on those things, and you may not. So I think I joked that the only headline I could pull out of this was the battle of the paid running backs, where the backfield has a combined $127 million in it. But I think this would be a win for the Vikings. I don't think Carolina's too great, but this could also be one of those games where if you start 4-0, well, 5-0, I think for what you've got going on, Dave, this could be one of those letdown games leading into a bye potentially. But I mean, you could be going into a bye 6-0. I mean,
which would be a miracle. I don't see us doing that. I see us dropping one of those games.
Agreed.
But I can see a 5-1 start, 4-2 at the worst.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I have us as a 4-2 start in this situation here. Cardinals, Browns. But yeah, I mean, Panthers, I think, are going to be a tougher game. We played them close last year, but we are also not. We were out a lot of really good defensive players at that point in time. And I don't know how much of an upgrade Darnold is from Teddy, even if Darnold is hitting on all cylinders. I mean, he might still be this great quarterback that deserved to be the 3rd overall pick, but I'm until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And yes, that defense did improve. And I do worry about who's that safety linebacker hybrid that they have there again. The rookie of the year, he should have been defensive rookie of the year.
Jeremy
Chin, yeah. So I mean, he gave us fits when we played them. Actually, I think he actually accounted for 14 of their points against us. Yeah, that was his come out real big game that he had. So then we get a bye. That's great. Now we got the Cowboys. Dak, getting a few games under his belt from that major injury. What do we see here?
We'll be in prime time purple. It's on Sunday night.
Ooh.
That's a fun Sunday night game. I think it's really going to come down to – I don't think this Cowboys defense is really anything to get excited about. They couldn't get one of the corners because Surtain and Horn were both gone by the time they were picking, and this corner group's still bad. Again, I think this is one of those games where Justin Jefferson could just – completely ball out. It'll be a battle of the high draft or first round receivers with CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson again, which CeeDee Lamb had a good game against Vikings last year, but having Peterson in there another year, Dantzler, like we talked about, who knows with Gladney. So I think this is another one of those toss-ups. I had it, I think, as a loss, but again, it could be a win. I wouldn't be surprised. Dallas is so hit and miss. And you know how McCarthy is as a coach. I mean, I'm not excited about him. If I'm a Vikings fan, I'm excited because you're going to be going up against his team still. But it's definitely hit or miss on what this could be. It's really going to be interesting to see how these teams form.
I had initially had this as a loss on the schedule, and after thinking about it a little bit more, I think it is going to be a win for us. I do think Lamb, he'll be matched up against our slot corner, so it'll probably be Mac Alexander the whole time because he's pretty much a slot-only receiver at this point. We had no defense when we played them last year. Again, it was, I think, right around the time we played the Panthers. So we are out Barr, we are out Hunter, we are out, Kendricks, I think, even was either got hurt this game or was out this game. We ended up losing at home to this team when we were on a hell of a run. That had a lot of us have hope. I think we're going to have a salty taste in our mouth. Again, I'm not talking any, Harbs, I know you can speak more literal with your, facts and stats and player matchups and all this. I'm going to go gut feeling here.
Fandom. Just get on with it, Ryan. I know that's what you're itching at. Just say it.
I'm going to go fanish here and just say, we're coming off a bye. We're playing at home. we have a dirty taste in our mouth from the last time we played them, where we easily should have won against Dalton and and a very banged up Cowboys team, and they came in and beat us. And I don't even think it was that close, if I remember. I mean, it was close in halftime, but I think they kind of ran away with it in the second half. I think we get our revenge here. I think that Justin Jefferson proves that he's the better receiver here than CeeDee Lamb, and that's hard for me to say, obviously, guys. CeeDee Lamb is, I think, my favorite non-quarterback in the league. So he's my favorite player that's not a quarterback. So I'm a big fan, but I think that we're gonna win this one in a close game.
Two quick things before we move on here. Ryan, where did CeeDee Lamb go to college?
Oklahoma.
Okay, that was point number one. Point number two, this is also a revenge game of the 1977 NFC title game. So that's going to be fresh in everyone's minds.
Yeah, right, sure.
So it's one of two revenge games I'm going to talk about. The biggest one's coming up here down the stretch.
Perfect.
Now, this, to me, it depends how well Dallas is playing. I do have a couple of Dallas Cowboys fans. They were disappointed in what happened in the offseason, both in free agency and the draft. So Mike McCarthy might be doing Mike McCarthy things. It will be a good one. It'll be fun to watch in primetime.
And thanks, Mateo. Yes, you're right. It was a one-score game. I was just checking that actually on my phone here. Was one-score game, so it wasn't a blowout or anything like that. So close game that we lost to Andy Dalton when we shouldn't have. And just a quick tangent. I know we have a lot of games to go through, and I'll try to be quick. Kirk Cousins, this is the issue I have, I guess, is that people say Kirk Cousins is, look at all these stats, like he's a top whatever quarterback. And great, he's great. He is a good quarterback. I'm not here to say he's not. When we're talking about a player that uplifts your team in crucial situations, and yes, you can complain about our defense not being good. Their defense was horrid last year, the Cowboys was. I mean, they were right up there with us as being an awful defense. And Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback than Andy Dalton, and we still lost that game. That's where I have my issues with Kirk Cousins is we cannot lose a game that we can't afford to lose in that situation to the Cowboys when they don't have Dak Prescott. They don't have a defense worth a damn. Zeke Elliott's on his way out. Like, the fact that we lost that game was so incredibly frustrating because that was a game that should have been a cakewalk because we had Kirk Cousins in that situation. Because we actually had a starting caliber quarterback, not a backup. And we still lost that game. Those are the games that a good quarterback, that he supposedly is, those are the games where we shouldn't lose that. Like, that should be an impossibility. And that's where I get frustrated. So we can move on. Ravens. All right, so we got Lamar Jackson. We got, they added Rashad Bateman,
Ravens
local
are
kid.
Be good.
They have
they added the best wide receiver.
Players.
They added the best wide receiver in Gophers history since Eric Decker, because Tyler Johnson was not it, and I still refuse for Gopher Twitter to tell me different. But Bateman with that offense is going to be very interesting. So, yes,
I think
he gets to come home.
Incredible. Yeah, he's going to be incredible for them. They had Hollywood Brown. They added Tylan Wallace late round, and probably a good value pick there. I think they had a hell of a draft. Honestly, they had a really, really good draft.
They've got a great front office.
They have a great front office there, and then the X factor here is Lamar Jackson. Going back to my earlier comments of running quarterbacks give us fits. Here's another one, right? Ones that can not only run but throw accurately, and of the ones that I've talked about, I know Russell Wilson's probably he's probably a bit more accurate, but Lamar Jackson's right up there. I mean, with really bad receivers. Now he's actually got some good receivers in his tool chest now to work with, and let's see how they work out by week. Was that 7, 8, 9? But I think this is gonna be a tough game. I have this as a loss on our record. I think they're a top 5 team in the NFL. So I don't think this is if we can keep this close, I'm not a big moral victory guy. That's not something I'm about. Either you win or you lose. But that would be very telling for how talented this team is if we can keep it close or win this game. Obviously, that's a huge tell. But if we can even keep it close, 1-score game, 3-point game, I think that will give us an indication if this team's a playoff team or not, and ready to compete in the playoffs, not just to be a one and out. Get in and get out type team. If we can actually compete, if we can keep up with the Ravens and some of these other teams. So,
Ravens, you're right. We can win them all, but I see this one as the toughest so far of the season against the Ravens. And we're going on the road in their house, purple on purple. And even this is one where I chalk it up as a loss, but not really that worried about it because it's outside the division,
outside the conference too. So really no bearing.
How about the Chargers next on the road? We go from East Coast to West Coast and play
Justin
in the
Jefferson's gonna go off.
SoFi Stadium. Yep.
Yeah, Jefferson. I think he's gonna go off just because he's still young and he still thinks about awards. He's not at that point in his career where and this is not a knock on him. This is any young player. When you come into the league, you want to make an impact. You want to win the awards. You want to be recognized. And I love Justin Herbert. He was not the offensive rookie of the year last year. It was Justin Jefferson by a landslide. He came in, just absolutely obliterated everybody with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. Again, not shaming Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying if he would have had anyone else of those first-round quarterbacks or first-round receivers, he might have had a healthy Dak. He could have, well, I guess he could have had Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. So poor Jalen Reagor. But
I agree with you, Jerome.
I do think that this could be – I think this is a shellacking, just to bust out a word of the Doc Emmerich dictionary there. So I think this would be a fun game for Vikings fans, especially if you're a Justin Jefferson fan like I am.
I also think Zimmer will dial stuff up that Chargers haven't seen in a long time. So
agreed.
Just to play devil's advocate and again, just provide some perspective to some of our listeners here. Chargers did beef up that offensive line significantly. They didn't add a lot of weapons. They actually lost Hunter Henry. They added Josh Palmer from Tennessee as their third receiver behind Mike Wallace and obviously Keenan Allen.
Drafted Trey McKitty to replace Hunter Henry, who's
I'm actually a fan of McKitty. I was actually wanting the Vikings to take him as, again, not as to be the number one guy, but more to be a number 2, number 3 guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's not going to be – tight ends, again, to talk about positions that take a while to develop. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. McKitty's definitely a developmental tight end, so I don't think it's going to be anything crazy.
Absolutely. And, yeah, their cornerback room's hurting, obviously. They don't have Casey Hayward anymore. They did sign Mike Davis back. Yeah, I mean, they're going to get Derwin James back. Kenneth Murray's coming off a good rookie campaign. I don't think, Andrew, I know you kind of said this is going to be a shellacking. I don't think it is going to be. I do think we win. I don't think this is going to be a loss on our record. But I think it might be a little closer. I think that offensive line is going to give Herbert some time. And with time, I think he is a good quarterback. He shouldn't have won Rookie of the Year. But he is a good quarterback, and I think he's going to give teams fits going forward. And it all depends if we can guard their top receivers. I don't think their run game is going to do much. Eckler, I don't think is much to write home about it. He outside of the backfield, but that's exactly what Kendricks is there for. I mean, that's his specialty, I think. So I think we win this game, and I think but I think it's a little closer than a shellacking. Packers, I don't think we need a deep dive into the Packer or any of the division foes, honestly. If they have Rodgers, it's going to be a tough game. We all know that. We've seen it many, many, many times. If they don't have Rodgers, we should be able to whoop them because he is their team. I think that's all that really needs to be said. And not if anyone wants to jump in here, feel free, please. It just, obviously our listeners, our fans know that. Know plenty about the Packers and the Bears and the Lions. So any other context there?
I just want to see how Eric Stokes does with Justin Jefferson. They drafted him in the first round instead of giving Rodgers another weapon because the Vikings have Justin Jefferson. Fournette has talked about that with me a while ago, how when Randy Moss came onto the team, that everyone in the division just loaded up on corners. And I think you're seeing the same thing happen here. So I'm interested to see how Stokes does in his first matchup against Jefferson. That's all.
Absolutely. I still think we could beat him even with Rodgers, because most of the games
100%.
against the Packers up in Lambeau or here are always close. So we'll see. I'll chalk it up as a win.
Argue about that. I will argue that first game last year was not close. I know the score said like 8 points or something like that. They were up like 3 touchdowns, and we had
and then
sure. Look, it was a good game to make Kirk Cousins look good because he had a lot of great stats in that game. But that game wasn't even close.
Then out to San Francisco.
San Francisco. So at this point in
another
time,
afternoon game. All the West Coast games are at 3 something.
Of course, yeah. Who knows who's playing at quarterback, right? You have Jimmy Garoppolo. Is Trey Lance taken over by this point? Trey Lance does offer that running dynamic. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be a tough game with the Niners. They have a good defense. They have a well-schemed offense. It's just a tough game almost always. I think that's on the road, you had said, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to chalk this up as an win because I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo, and if it is Trey Lance, I think Zimmer can scheme that up to make it pretty confusing for him. I'm going to chop this up as a win, and I don't know where my total is at this point, but I can recount while you guys talk.
I think they do go to Trey Lance here at this point. I think Jed York's going to do his best George Steinbrenner impersonation, to where a lot of owners lost a lot of money last year, and Trey Lance is going to put people in the seats, and Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't. So I think by that point in Week 12, Trey Lance will be the guy. It's still going to be a rookie, and then that goes back to Dave's point with Mike Zimmer having a field day with rookie quarterbacks. And being at North Dakota State, he had a lot of pro concepts. A lot of Vikings fans are familiar with them. So they know that. They also know that P.J. Fleck recruited him as a safety. But it's one of those things where I think it will be an interesting game. But I do think Minnesota gets a win here. I'm with Ryan, where I'm saying it with a little bit more confidence. But I'm still – it's going to be interesting to see how Trey Lance does.
No, this is going to be a good game. It bothers me that we're racking up these many wins, because this is the point where the team gets cocky on themselves. So we'll see. Then we got the Lions away. That should be a win. And then comes the Steelers. Now, Andrew and I were talking about this before the show. What are the Steelers going to look like? And what week is this? 14?
Week 14. Right before that big, tough stretch.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Andrew. Repeat what you told me.
Yeah, no, I think Ben Roethlisberger at this point, I mean, he almost retired this past year. I just don't think he's in it this year. And I talked to a lot of Steelers fans. A lot of my buddies are Steelers fans. I'm from I'm north of Pittsburgh. And I think it's really going to be where they establish an arm with Najee, and I don't think he's going to provide much with the passing game. You have everyone we've talked about at length at this point in the cornerback room. I think they can handle Juju, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth. I think the linebackers will handle him just fine. And then by that point, I think the defensive line, if they're all healthy with Tomlinson and Pierce, you're going to be able to handle Najee. So I think that I just think at this point the Steelers are going to be a wash, and I think they're really going to be looking ahead to that last 4-game stretch where I talked about, where you play Tennessee, Kansas City, Baltimore, Cleveland, and that's going to make or break their season. And they're not thinking about Minnesota. So, but Minnesota's going to be thinking about them because they remember what happened in Super Bowl IX, damn it. And even though 3-year-old Mike Tomlin and 19-year-old Mike Zimmer don't remember that game, or remember that game if you're Zimmer, because he he's older. I think that the Vikings get their revenge in the biggest revenge game of the year from Super Bowl IX. Chalk it up.
Yeah. Again, I think like you had said, Harbs, it all really just depends on where Ben Roethlisberger is at this point in time. That offense is a good offense, I think, with a quality quarterback, right? And
Yes.
Is he going to still be that at that point in time? Is he that right now? I don't know.
No.
Does Dwayne
he
Haskins
wasn't
come in?
last year?
Does Dwayne Haskins come in and prove, Ron Rivera wrong? I mean, who knows, right? But that defense is for real. That defense is for real. They were a top defense last year, and I don't think they got much worse heading into this offseason. So I think it's going to be a good game. It all really depends on how well their quarterback is playing at that point in time. Just for parity's sake, I'm going to put an L. Just because I said 9 and I think I'm already at like 7 wins for us. So I'm just going to throw an L out here and see where it takes us.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was about to say, let's go down to Soldier Field.
Soldier Field, the Bears. At this point, you assume Justin Fields is playing. Another running quarterback, another rookie quarterback. So what Zimmer got in mind for him at this point in time, this team is not bad. We get to play them twice at the end of the year, and we're going to get to see a lot of tape on them up until that point. I don't think it's a bad team. Did they make the playoffs last year? Did they squeak in?
They finished second in the division, made the playoffs.
So they made the playoffs last year. Obviously, it's not a bad roster per se. They did lose some key pieces, but they added some in the draft. Right. You know what, though? Everyone shits on Trubisky, but he gave us fits every single time. And again, we're going back to the running quarterback theory here is we just couldn't contain him. He wasn't good. We just couldn't contain him. His ability to scramble out of the pocket and not to the left, but mainly to the right and throw, for whatever reason, or just run, but for whatever reason, killed us. I mean, I remember we had them on the ropes. It's like 3rd and 12. He rushes for 20-some yards, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I almost threw my phone through the TV, I think. So it's just incredibly frustrating watching those games. And now you have Justin Fields there, who is a significantly better quarterback that can still do those same things that frustrated us before. That defense always gives us fits. So we'll see how it goes. Soldier Field, I'll make this an L.
Did you say you're making it an L?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay.
Just Soldier Field.
Harbs, if you don't know from Vikings history, especially recent history, the Vikings always have a hard time at Soldier Field, whether it be the grass, whether it be the ghosts, whatever it is, whether it be kickers or punters punting to Devin Hester when they're told not to, they always have a hard time, and the Bears pull out something fluky and usually win.
So I have talked about football analysis at length here. We're at week 15. So I'm going to decide the game on the following factors. I am 26 years old. I just discovered the show ER, based out of Chicago. Launched George Clooney's career. Absolutely love this show. So that makes me like Chicago a little bit. But then I think about Ditka and his ugly sweater. I think of the fridge. My fridge right now is not working, and I hate that stupid-looking pizza. So I'm going to go with Minnesota here getting the win. There's nothing I like about Chicago except the show ER, and so that way I'm giving Minnesota the win. I'd rather have a Juicy Lucy than that pizza pie any day of the week.
Okay.
I agree with you, though. That pizza's trash. We were in Chicago, and
trash.
I tried like the second best Chicago pizza, and I was like, "This is garbage."
It's literally a pizza pie, yay thick.
Yeah.
So
it's anyway.
I hope we do win, but I have a feeling we're going to split with Chicago, and I'd rather lose there than at home.
Fair enough.
Rams. Then we come home for the Rams.
Rams at home.
Oh, by the way,
Stafford.
the Bears game is a Monday night. We have a short week coming into the Rams game.
Oh, that's right. You talked about that with the Thursday night for the Steelers.
Yep,
good to
Thursday
know, good
night
to
on the
know.
Steelers and Monday night on the Bears.
So Rams is always a tough game. They're just so well coached, right? Sean McVay is a great coach, offensive minded coach. I think they upgraded at quarterback with Stafford over Goff. They got some good weapons on that offense. They did lose Gerald Everett, I think, but they still got Tyler Higbee at tight end, who can move pretty well, actually. They got some good receivers, and I think they added one in the draft. I can't remember exactly who.
Yes, we did that.
Yeah, so very, very good, very good offense. Defense, obviously, you got Aaron Donald. You got, Jalen Ramsey, who's going to probably lock up Justin Jefferson. I see this as a tough one. We are at home. I have it coming off of 2 losses here. Can't imagine us hitting into the home stretch there with 3 losses, but I'm going to call 3 losses here. I think this is going to be a tough one, and I think Stafford is going to finally have some weapons and protection at his helm, and finally a good coach where he's going to hit all cylinders.
I think Stafford's going to have the relationship with McVay that Brady had with BA this past year, and I think it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be eye-opening for him. He's had great weapons, like you talked about. He's never had the coaching. And I'll add to it, too, is if Jared Goff is able to carve up a Mike Zimmer defense,
True.
A capable Matthew Stafford might be able to do worse. But he also, again, Zimmer's familiar with him from all the years in the division.
And he's injury-prone.
Agreed. And that's going to be it's a pretty even scale there as far as the good and bad with this. So, I mean, if you're looking at it, if you get a win against the Rams in Week 16 and you're going into 2 division games, I'd be feeling very good. A lot of momentum going into those last 2 important games.
Now, the only thing I don't like about this game, it's a home game. We'll be wearing purple, which is fine, which means they wear their dingy, sweat-stained,
the bone
color uniform they call that one. Then we go up to Green Bay, January 2nd, on the frozen tundra.
And they're coming off a Christmas Day game against Cleveland, so they'll be going to coming off of their own tough game, so it'll be interesting.
And if Rodgers isn't there, we win.
I think I have this as a win for us as well.
And then we return home for the last game of the season. Oh, that Packers game is Sunday night, by the way, so it's going to be even colder. The sun won't be down. Then we return home for the Bears. And the question is, do we have the number 1 seed in the NFC or not by this point? Because we're looking at this schedule, and yeah, I could show 3 losses, but that puts us at 13-3. Most likely a 13-3 schedule, you're battling for that number 1 seed. If we've already got it in the bag, I expect the second stringers to start.
Yeah, that's the one thing I am going into this game based on what I have on the schedule. I'm going into this game with us at 9 wins right now. 9 wins in the 17 game schedule is going to be not enough to make the playoffs. So we're going into US Bank Stadium against the Bears, who we had just lost to in my predictions here, needing a win to make the playoffs.
To finish 10-7 and we'll go in as a wild
And
card.
I have them winning this game, going to 10-7, being the last seed or second to last seed to
fighting
make into
for
the
Mike
playoffs.
Zimmer's job.
And keeping Zimmer around 1 more damn year until he loses next year, because again, we're a every other year playoff team, and then we'll hit our new coaching staff in 2023.
Yeah, I think I don't even remember what my original point was at this point, but I think that the NFL, it's going to be funny to where you talked about sitting the starters. The NFL adds this 17th game for the money and the TV revenue, and you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be either testing out what they've got on rosters, or you've got them sitting their starters getting ready for a playoff because they need an extra bye. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, I just from an NFL standpoint, I think it's absolutely hilarious that they threw in this extra game. But at the same time,
They try
it's
to
another
make it
game.
interdivision and
Exactly.
competitive.
And I think the initial reports of the like out of conference fun matchups was quickly squashed because of that exact point where, okay, you're going to have people that are just not going to play starters, and then it's just going to mean less. But if you keep it in the division, Pittsburgh plays Baltimore. I think Cleveland plays Cincinnati. Like, there's a lot of the conferences are lined up to where it's going to be division. So the NFL's smart. They want to make everybody play as much as they can. And a game against Chicago at home going into a potential playoff berth is a nice little cap on top of the season to keep Mike Zimmer's job.
And I agree, Mateo. I'm not a big Team Zimmer guy. I don't mind him as a coach. I just think we need an offensive-minded coach as a head coach. But again, it's just this weird every other year. We're in the playoffs, and we missed it last year, so we got to make it this year.
So, well,
all right. Well, that's the schedule.
Now, I've got one thing I want to pop up real quick. This came from sports betting something or other today. It is, once the schedule came out, they used projected wins-loss, which the Vikings are projected over-under at 8.5. And they made strength of schedule. I'm sorry, I'm covering up Harbs on this one. You notice the Vikings are middle of the pack, roughly. They're 14th toughest. But Green Bay is number 15. And I want to know how Green Bay can have an easier schedule than the Vikings when Green Bay won the division, playing, you would think, the first place teams, and we finished third and are playing the third place teams.
Some of the third place teams got better than the first place teams.
Well, obviously,
when you've got Blake Bortles or Jordan Love at quarterback, you got to throw them a bone when you can. So
it's just, I find it frustrating.
Dave was very upset about this, everyone, off screen beforehand. I got in and he was just heated.
Yep.
I mean, in strength of schedule pre-season is
it all changes by week 6,
silly, right? Injuries and who's actually playing well and whatever. I mean, there's so many factors. Strength of schedule at the end of the season does make a difference, I think. But you're looking back on how quality you played. But yeah, I mean, I think we have a tough schedule. I mean, I knew that going into before today, and I've been harping on all the shows that I've been on that I don't think, even though we did gain a lot this off season with hurt players returning and again getting a better offensive line and all these different things, we also got a much tougher schedule, I think, this year than we did last year. And so we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping for the best, obviously, in the Vikings fan in me, and I'm hoping for some fun games and hopefully we can eke out some wins and maybe make a run.
I think it was Luke Braun today said over under at 8.5 was plus 375. It's now down to like 225. Even Vegas is thinking we're getting better. So I think we're well into the double digits. 3 losses would be nice, but maybe 5 I think is realistic. But with that, I see the Vikings going to the playoffs.
So Dave, you got 12-5 final prediction?
12-5. Yeah.
For this show?
For this show, I'll go 12-5.
You guys possibly in your optimism are very, very bad for me.
But as a Vikings fan that's been through all the heartache,
we
won't get to the heartache until the NFC Championship.
I understand heartache, Dave.
Well, yeah, you are a Brownies fan. You are a Brownies fan. Never mind.
No, it's funny. I was thinking the whole time as you're hyping this up, I was like, man, I can't listen to you guys when I'm trying to bet during the season because I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to be fine. And then I just lose all my money, and then I'm doing the show live from an alley somewhere as my family and I are begging for food on the side of the street. Bleacher Report just came out with a 9-8 prediction for him. I thought that would be interesting to end on too. I think 9-8, 10-7, 8-9, like it's really going to fluctuate. I'm loving the optimism down here too, I will say. So everyone's pretty optimistic except me. So I'll be negative Nancy for today.
When I'm going through the exercise live here, I think I ended up at 10-7. A little more optimistic than I think that's probably about right. 10-7, 9-8. I think that's kind of where I've been sitting. So I'm going to go with 10-7. Try to be a little bit more optimistic. Andrew.
10-7 also sounds so gross now.
Well, it sounds like 10-6.
Yeah, but it's just
or
I don't know,
9-7.
Yeah, no record sounds good now unless you have you're 11-6. It's just 10-7 is just bleh.
Just for shits and giggles, do you have a prediction for your Browns?
I'll be 100% honest with you, and this is how dedicated I am. I spent the last time I was paid to do another job, because I'm such a good employee, doing research for this show, that I have not looked at the Browns schedule. Apart from, I know we play Green Bay on Christmas Day, and I know we play Kansas City and Dirty Dan Sorensen on week 1, which is going to be that'll be a shellacking. The Browns are going to just go off on Kansas City. I heard today on Pat
Talk
McAfee
about optimism.
Right? Pat McAfee show said that Super Bowl losers are 3-9 in the last 12 years. So they always have a little bit more of a hangover than the winners. So I think starting out with a win against Kansas City would be great. It's still Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, so who knows?
Well, I want to thank all our viewers today, from Mateo, Arthur, Tyler. We get Jim, Jablonski, Jeffrey, Who Dat Dude. Who else did we have tonight pop in? We had Evan Clark. We had Raymond Fry. And, of course, the great Viking Jerome himself popped in to join us. Thank you all for joining us. And Dan Henneman, yes, correcting me on we beat Chicago last year. And, of course, the one and only Clifford. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night as we do our normal Thursday show, which should be with Flip and Eric Thompson. So, as always, like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you're listening on the podcast, rate us. It helps. Go over to Daily Norseman for other added written pieces by some great people that we work with daily. And you all rock. Closing statements, Ryan?
Skol, baby.
Get that revenge on Super Bowl 9. We need it.
Absolutely. Everybody, skol! Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.